We got 60 taps, plus or minus 60 taps are on tubing, and we got about 76 or 77 buckets. Yeah. When I first got into this, at this level, I thought this was going to be great. I get everything set up, get my sap in my tanks, turn on the fire, and I can sit back in the rocking chair and I can just read a book. Well, that hasn't happened. The first time we tested this system, Dave Douillet came up and helped me out. He had run the very similar rig, a 2x6 up at Reed's Park for a few years, so he knew the ins and outs of it. The first day we cranked it up, I was kind of running around, and all of a sudden this back pan foamed and I wasn't ready for it, and it boiled right over. And Dave didn't even bat an eyelash, didn't get excited about it, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack right then and there. This is our first time boiling in this thing. Take a peek of that, you can see it coming up into the pan. And when you put just a drop of defoamer in, it changes the surface tension on the sap, and it drops right back down to a hard boil. Everyone's got their own little tricks. In the olden days, from what I understand, a lot of the guys would take a wire, they would string it right across the middle of their back pan, and they would hang a little piece of bacon, a little strip of bacon right off of it, and the minute that foam would come up and touch the bottom of that bacon, it would do the same exact thing. You know, they say no sugar maker that's serious about sugar making has ever gone through without burning a front pan at least once. Well, knock on wood, so far it hasn't happened, but I'm paranoid about it. It can be pretty costly because you can ruin the pan if it burns it too bad. And you can also ruin 5 or 6 hours of boiling because it's going to give your syrup in the front pan an off taste. You might as well throw it out because it's not going to taste very good. Yeah, this right here is a critical point. This tells me right where my level is on that back pan, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep about an inch above my flues so I don't scorch anything. And I'm trying to run this year at somewhere around an 1.5 inches of sap in my front pan. The guys that are brave, they'll put 3/4 of an inch in that front pan because it is more efficient, but when things go wrong, it's a lot harder to get them back under control. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and keep a little more sap in that front pan. You know, for a lot of the old timers that did it for many years, they didn't have the hydrometers, they didn't have any way of actually measuring it right to the exact degree of Brix. Brix, B-R-I-X, is the term they use for measuring syrup, the density of syrup. And they just did it the old-fashioned way. They had a pan or a nice little scoop, and when it got close to syrup, they were watching carefully, and they'd just scoop in there, and they'd let it run down off the pan, and when it would apron, that was syrup. And that's the way they did it for many years. Now it's gotten a lot more scientific. My gauge right here, we're at about 208 degrees right now. Right around 219 degrees, in theory, is when you're going to have the proper density to turn it to start drying off, and you're going to have your syrup. But the old timers, they didn't have a lot of the gizmos that we've got today. They just did it all by feel. And back then it was more art than it was science, for sure. When a 2x6 is running really efficient, they say you can boil off about 25 to 30 gallons per hour. So then what our own personal process is, I triple filter everything. It comes out of the front pan, goes through a cone filter, and it's actually a double cone filter. Then from there it goes onto the stove, and then I check again to make sure that the hydrometer reading is right where it needs to be. Then I pour it off that through another set of cone filters, and from there I take it and put it right through our canner, and that has a filter on the top of it. So everything gets triple filtered. Bring it up to 180 degrees. We usually bring ours to about 185 before we can it. Then it goes into the cans that hot, and then you turn it on its side so every bit of the inside of the container gets exposed to that heat, and you don't have to worry about bacteria. But for me, it's all about having fun and the ritual of spring. That's what it's about for me. And when you talk to the people that are into it, you very seldom talk to someone that isn't passionate about it. When you're finally there and you're drawing that syrup off and putting it into your containers, that's the culmination of the whole thing, and that's when it really gets to be fun. That's the part my wife likes to do with me. And I still would have been a lot better off if I would have just bought 3 or 4 gallons a year rather than going this route, but this for me is what it's all about. When I open that refrigerator and grab the syrup, I know I made it.